I can't believe Carter's ducking me right now. This is horrible.
I mean, this is great. Carter's in the bathroom, and you're live from an Applebee's bathroom.
Hey,
We're sipping high noons tonight, boys. We move.
come on.
I mean, we really are, Sweeney. That's actually what's happening.
I will say I've been in and out on the draft cast, but of course I had to tune in for my guy, and like the first thing I hear is just me being roasted for a long evening a couple of years ago at the Ramblers. So that was a good one to hear.
All right, so you don't dispute the allegations that you had yourself a night on Loyola Chicago's bill.
I've had myself many a nights on Loyola.
Greg, stop this, man. You're like the feds when everybody comes on here. Welcome with open arms. He
brought it up himself. You were in the restroom and you missed a great Applebee's bathroom joke about Sweeney's backdrop right now. Okay, let's actually talk hoot with Sweeney, though, because contrary to popular belief, he's not just a real life friend of all five of us on the call. He's also like very good at his job as a basketball genius. So I want to reset this board for a little bit, Sweeney. You asked if you could go later in the show because you had real job duties to do. I believe you've been writing earlier in the draft. What's the story of this draft been to you?
Yeah, I think, the Ron Holland pick at 5 really set in motion a bunch of stuff, right? That was really the start of Dalton Connect's range potentially that, set into motion him falling to 17, set into motion Modest Puzelis falling to 11 to the Bulls. To me, that's really the number one story. I also think from the NBA standpoint, Dillingham going 8 and going to Minnesota, like, I don't know how much you guys have gotten into that, but to me, that's maybe the pick of the round. Good, bad, and different. But if you were trying to marry a player's skill set with an existing roster, I'm not sure you could kind of mesh together fits any better than taking Dillingham's creativeness off the bounce and hiding his weaknesses defensively, hiding his weaknesses getting to the rim with, all right, we've got Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. Like that to me, like for a team that is trying to compete and trying to win the West, like that is a fascinating move that will, I think, go a long way in determining whether Minnesota is able to get over the hump, win a championship.
Yeah. All right, so I got to ask you this, Sweeney, Chicago guy. Obviously, you're tapped into the Big Ten. We've asked a lot of people this, but I didn't know we were going to be forced to ask so many people this. What's going on with the TSJ slide right now? Because I'm not saying that he shouldn't have necessarily went this far. That could go one way or the other. But I'm seeing players like A.J. Johnson go off the board before him, some other guys going off. What do you think is kind of just the point of this TSJ slide? Or is it really just that my franchise picked Ron Holland at 5?
Look, I think with TJ outside of the Bulls at 11, which seemed like a real destination for him, there weren't a ton of options for him in the top 15 to 17. And so now we're really getting into his range and the early to mid 20s. I do think he will get picked tonight. Obviously we're getting late here. Look, I think we've seen with a couple of these older prospects, right? Dalton Connect obviously being the most notable. Like, I think there's an understanding of like, yes, you were super productive and yes, there's a role for you, but like the number of guys that go from, 24 years old and still in college to being, lottery level return on investments in the NBA are very, very slim. And I think with TJ, I think the worry you're getting someone who's sort of maxed out, right? Like he's really good. He has continued to get better. His shot is now consistent. That, is a huge deal because the athleticism and the physical traits are obviously there. But I do think with Terrence Shannon, there's just some questions of like, what's the upside? And then it's what organization does he fit in? So, could see him certainly think he can come off the board anytime now. Hope he does. But I don't think this is too far outside the range you would expect him to go.
I got a question jumping off of that. I think him and Baylor Shireman and Johnny Furphy are all kind of that same position, and it's a matter of flavor for teams who they're looking at. How do you stack those three up against each other?
Man, like the Shireman film from the combine scrimmages just really, really pops in my brain every time I talk about him.
It was nice, wasn't it?
I was so skeptical of him as a pro for so long. I think I was kind of poisoned by his bad G League camp performance in 2022. Like he has just gotten better and better, and he is a monster shooter with some playmaking pop. Like he is a guy that you're going to be able to bring in as an NBA organization right now and put him in the game, and he's going to be able to help you. I think Shannon, you could say the same. I think with Furphy, it's a longer term project, and so when you're drafting in this range, a lot of these teams are groups that really, really want to hunt ready-made role players, guys who can help them now. And quite frankly, I think with someone like Furphy, it gets hard in the 20s to sell why you should be picked from a readiness standpoint. And if you're going to go upside, there's other options. Again, we see Daddy A just come off the board. Obviously, you just mentioned AJ Johnson. Those are some interesting names. Not guys I really would like first round, but it is what it is. Everybody has different grades on prospects this time of year.
Sweeney, I have to reiterate that when you are in win now mode after just acquiring Mikal Bridges in the Eastern Conference, you cannot pass up the opportunity to take a guy that scored 6 points a game with 2 rebounds on 31% shooting from 3 at 25th overall.
It's probably not what I would have done. I'm also not the expert on Mr. Daddy A, so I'll leave that to the international experts. I don't know if we can like phone Frank Rochelle or something and see what.
No, I'll tap in here really quickly. If anyone in here has been to Vegas, there's those people who impersonate like other people in Vegas, like Michael Jordan or something like that. Didier kind of looks like he's impersonating Devin Carter, and I feel like that got him in the first round.
That's not his last name, for the record. It's not Didier, but we're going to let you rock. Riley, I feel like you have some great intel on who I'm referring to as Pac. Any thoughts on Pac here?
He was actually one of the international guys I did not lean into scouting as much. I thought he was just kind of like a draft Twitter charlatan riser who I didn't really need to take seriously. I think he's pretty athletic. What do you got about Didier, Sweeney? Have you watched him at all?
Not a lot. I wish I had a lot of opinions here, but I think the sleepers are going to have to be sleeping on Mr. Didier.
Well, all right. The Knicks are back up on the clock now at 26. So this is back-to-back for New York. They had 24-25. They moved down to 25-26. They say they're picking with both selections here, given the rest of the roster, and they just added Pac. Do you think it's time for them to take Chris Arcidiacono?
I mean, they need to get as much Villanova blood as they can in there. I mean, I might even recommend hiring Kyle Neptune as an assistant. I mean, let's get him out the league. I mean, come on.
And that's the taking it too far segment of the day. Come on now, Sweeney. Let's not do that. We did have Drew on earlier, and he did say that you were able to attend and kind of look at how the Ramblers have looked early on. How have our Blurs looked early on in the summer here, Sweeney?
Man, I wasn't expecting a Rambler question on June 26th, but here we are.
You know what happens when you hop on Sleepers is what it is.
Look, I think there's a lot of excitement for good reason. I think they're super, super talented. They're a great example of using the international markets in their favor. Saif Hendawi and Daniil Glazkov are going to be dudes pretty quickly, I think, in the Atlantic 10. They're athletic, they're old, otherwise, and I think Miles Rubin's about to explode. Their sophomore big. He's got such a bright future, and I think Drew's done a great job. I think Drew has talked a lot about how good he thinks they'll be defensively. I think my eye test certainly backs that up. I think they have a chance to be one of the best defensive teams in the country, and should get tested in the non-conference. We'll see how they respond to it, but I think they're looking good in June. Everybody thinks they look good in June, but I think on paper the
best shot blocker in the country. That was per Drew himself on the show earlier today. I
will say, if you look at his Miles's numbers, like the shit he was doing against like Ryan Kalkbrenner, and like you compare him to like the best rim protectors in all of college basketball over the last 10 years, like he is very favorable. Like his numbers are like Nerlens Noel vibes. We'll see again what it turns into. But like for him to be as productive as he was as a freshman is ridiculous. And it's like, I think how about this? I think there will be a draft show at some point in the Sleepers media future where we are discussing Miles Rubin.
All right.
Wow.
That's why we bring you here, Swains.
All right, Sweeney, I'm going to tie it back to the current draft. I want to know the Kevin Sweeney All-Stars because, we know you do some scouting yourselves. You go to games. Some might say you grind, you work. Who are your favorite players in this draft class? And they could be some of the obvious picks. They could be sleepers. They could be a fusion of both.
Man, I love Jared McCain. Like, I know I was part of a Field of 68 segment that got me in some hot water, where I guess John Henson sort of implied that he would shove Jared McCain in the locker. I love that kid, man. Like, I think he is everything that's right about kind of modern college basketball. The Duke guys just cannot say enough good things about him. I think he's just so tough, so competitive, such a high-level shooter, such a good decision maker. Like, he is someone that's going to help you right away. Like, if I'm Philly, I'm ecstatic to get Jared McCain at 16 and just add another useful guard that I think can go in a playoff series tomorrow and help you. To get that at 16 is a huge win. He was my kind of draft crush all year, and excited about him going 16 to Philly.
Was it the nail, Sweeney? You say he was the crush. I mean,
I have no – people can do whatever they want with their nails as far as I'm concerned.
Damn, Skip. I agree for the record. I'm just wondering if, like, Sweeney has a favorite color or anything like that.
Just make you cut. I feel like Sweeney maybe pushes a little too far in cutting his nails. There's probably a couple Fridays that get a little bit too long. You're like, I got to remember to cut my fingernails.
No, I'm a bad nail biter.
Sweeney, don't be that.
I know it's not. I know it's supposed to do it, but I'm a nail biter.
Love Island get you that anxious?
I mean, like I'm anxious all the time, man. It is.
Sweeney, we appreciate the honesty and the insight tonight. We'll let you go. Thank you for joining the show. We love you. We'll see you again soon.
Man, I was expecting like a hot seat question at the end here. I mean, this is underwhelming.
We're keeping it easy on you, Sweeney.
Wait a minute. You want us to fire something up? We can.
You're not about to know the challenge underwhelming.
I mean, I expected Greg to hop in there with his very many hot questions. I don't have any, but.
All right, fellas, this has been fun. I appreciate y'all. Great show. Congratulations on pulling it off. It's pretty cool, and this was cool to be a part of. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Sweeney.